You'll recall a couple of days ago, somebody called me up and said, hey, Davis met with the Pope. Isn't this a terrible indictment of the Pope or of gay marriage or whatever, support of Kim Davis? And I said, I met Pope John Paul II, and there are audiences, private audiences, and photo ops. And, I've been in the midst of that. And a so-called audience with the Pope simply means you get to shake his hand and have your picture taken with him. At least one that was arranged by the Pope. I was actually solicited by the Vatican. In fact, I thought it was a hoax at first. I got this invitation on my fax machine that said, Pope John Paul II would like to invite you to come to a concert at Castle Gandolfo on such and such a date, and I think it was 1999 or 2000. And, be his guest and have a private audience with him. And I thought, I'm being punked, right? Except that it was from this weird phone number, a weird area code. It turns out it was a country code for the Vatican. So Louise and I went over there. We got one of the Pope's right-hand guys, John Paul II, gave us a tour of the Vatican, took us into all these little secret places people don't normally see. And the next day we drove up to Castle Gandolfo on the side of this caldera of this extinct volcano on this lake, and sat for a couple of hours with Pope John Paul II listening to music along with about 300 people. Then there were about 30 of us. I know the one person on my left was the head of the German parliament. The person on my right was the head of the Bundesbank, or the Deutsche Bank, excuse me, the German bank. And, we were basically paraded through, and one at a time we would, the Pope stood in a small room, so it really was private, sort of. But, the guy who introduces you and the security people are there. And I had a brief conversation with the Pope. And I had been told that my wife, Louise, would not be able to meet him. And she was with me, and she was all dressed up. And when he saw her, John Paul saw her, he just reached out and shook her hand. She had been told not to try to touch the Pope. You don't touch the Pope. A woman don't touch the Pope. But, he put out a hand to her. So anyhow, it's coming out now that apparently the guy who's in charge, now this is still kind of speculative, but anyhow, somebody said, what do you think about all this? And I said, I'm guessing that somebody just brought Kim Davis in and said, Pope, here's somebody who's really concerned about religious freedom. And he said, great, 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 great. And shook her hand or gave her a hug, and off she went. And he had no idea who she was or what she was all about. Now, that obviously is not how her lawyer has been presenting it or how she has been presenting it, but they have provided no proof of anything except that the Vatican says, yeah, Kim Davis did come through. So Jay Levine is the chief correspondent for CBS 2 in Chicago, and he wrote a piece for the local CBS affiliate. No, actually, this is not the piece that I was looking for. I have so much paper here on my desk, I'm losing track of things. Here it is. This is a piece by Charles Pierce. Forgive me. Charles P. Pierce, and it's in Esquire.com. And he's suggesting that Archbishop Carlo Vigano was, kind of a hot dude, right? I mean, he was over in the Vatican, and I guess he's Italian, Carlo Vigano. And things were going great, but he was the whistleblower on the Vatican bank scandal. And so the Vatican banished him to outer darkness. They put him in charge of the residence in New York. He's not even the guy who's in charge of St. Patrick's Cathedral or anything. He's not. He's just in charge of the house, right? You're the housekeeper. And the guy's a little PO'd about that, apparently. He's also a anti-gay activist, or anti-gay marriage activist anyway. This particular archbishop spoke at an event put together by the National Organization for Marriage, which has now largely fallen apart, but it was basically a gay-hating group. And the person who was also speaking at that same event was Kim Davis's lawyer. Now, on top of this, Terry Moran of ABC on the plane home with the Pope and the plane back to the Vatican says, well, what do you think about religious conscientious objectors. And the Pope gave this kind of generic response. Well, it's a good thing. And ABC got the exclusive interview with Kim Davis and her lawyer. This was a setup. This had to be a setup. And then Vigano goes to Robert Moynihan, who publishes the newsletter Inside the Vatican, and says, hey, or at least this is the speculation that Charles Pierce is putting forward in this piece. It's the headline on at Esquire.com is, was Pope Francis actually swindled into meeting Kim Davis? Increasingly, it's looking like it. What a surprise. The right-wingers lied about something? Really? The Pope is pulling, he's moving back as fast as he can away from Kim Davis and the entire Catholic Church, apparently with the exception of this priest in Chicago. And now comes a CNN exclusive. The day before Pope Francis met anti-gay county clerk Kim Davis, he held a private meeting with a longtime friend who's been in a same-sex relationship for 19 years, Yayo Grassi. Openly gay man. The Pope actually sent him an email saying, I want to see you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And the Pope met with this openly gay man and his partner of 19 years, old friends of the Pope's, and gave them a hug. Yeah.